Welcome back to the Broto Fantasy Football Podcast presented by BrotoFantasy.com. I'm your host, Tim PETROP, with my brothers, the only two twins that give you double that fantasy goodness, Michael and Jason PETROP. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are in the summer heat wave still, and the heat wave is going through Miami. Ongi, Miami. What? Jason, why'd you do that? We're back, of course. It's me, your
Tim
host.
was doing in Miami back in his heyday.
That's right. It's your host, Tim PETROP, here with my brother Michael.
Yep.
And my brother Jason.
So,
and we are breaking down every single team in the NFL throughout the week of August. Let's start also, before we even start.
finishing the AFC East.
We're finishing the AFCs, and you can find us on YouTube for this. Go see our beautiful faces. So let's start in the AFCs, and let's start with the offensive outlook, where we take a look at the coaching staff and what they have in store for the offense. Their new head coach is Brian Flores. He's the head coach after 14 years in various roles in New England. Chad O'Shea also comes over from New England. He was there for 10 years as New England's wide receiver coach. So there's not much to go on because neither of these guys have had any type of role like head coach or coordinator before, and none of them have ever called plays. But we can guess that we're going to have some type of New England-style system, which means, of course, that we aren't going to know anything. And the first thing we're not going to know about, let's start with the first position of interest, is quarterback. Ryan FitzMagic right now, or Fitzpatrick for you layman's out there, is 35 years old. He got signed before Josh Rosen got traded to Miami. I think it's just a matter of time, no matter how good Fitzpatrick plays, that Rosen plays, because Miami's going to be a bad team from all indications. And you're going to want to see what you have in Rosen before you make a top pick on a quarterback next year. So it's probably going to be Rosen. I'm personally staying away from this situation, even if I'm in a two-quarterback league, unless I need a two-quarterback backup, then I'm going to take Fitzpatrick or Rosen. Jason, are you deviating from the plan at all?
For fantasy purposes, I want Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Really? That's
what
interesting.
What do you mean? This guy's a gunslinger who's not afraid to do it when the pressure's not on, and there's not going to be a lot of pressure when Miami is the team he's playing for. He broke the damn true throw value charts. He's number one by a large margin, just that he only played like 9 games, like 7.5. So he's down on the bottom with the injured players and the backups. But he would have been number one. He was insanely efficient. It's mostly buoyed by the first 2 weeks where he was like insanely good. But then if you look at Josh Rosen, he's second to last. He just wasn't very good. I think that right now, and then early reports in camp are that Josh Rosen hasn't looked very good, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is slinging it.
To be fair, we're 3 days into camp at the time of this recording.
I know. But Ryan Fitzpatrick's always someone who's going to look better than the other guy in practice, I feel like.
Listen, if I'm investing in a Miami receiver, I want Ryan Fitzpatrick to be the quarterback.
Yeah.
For the quarterbacks in general, though, QB2, I guess, whichever one's starting, but I wouldn't trust them really. Fitzpatrick more so than Rosen. I'm with Jason there.
All right, so let's go over to the wide receivers then. Albert Wilson is someone that's on definitely the fantasy radar. Flashed some greatness before getting hurt last season. How do you guys feel about Albert Wilson? He's someone that I drafted in the Scott Fishbowl League because of his ginormous upside. I like his skills. He's a blazer. He's athletic. He seems like he has a good head and the shoulders. A lot of people made fun of this signing of Albert Wilson, and now all of a sudden a year later, not so funny anymore. Jason, let's start with you. How do you feel about Albert Wilson coming into the year?
I think he's being a little... I feel like he's being a little overvalued at the moment. It depends where he's going. I think people are getting a little too hyped up on Albert Wilson, thinking he's going to be a wide receiver 2 or some crazy shit. So if his ADP keeps climbing, I'm going to let someone else take him. But if he stays in the back end of drafts, you can get him as the 3rd, 4th guy on your bench, then I don't have a problem with it, because he's a very dynamic person, and if Brian Flores is going to bring over a Patriots offense with him, you want someone who's going to be playing in the middle of the field, a slot receiver who can do something with the ball, and that's most likely going to be Albert Wilson. But let's not forget that he's been in the league for a while. We haven't really seen him do it for a long time. We haven't seen him stay. He got hurt last year when he was put into a bigger role.
But he did have success when he was there.
He did have success, yes. So I see why people are attracted to him. I'm not going to go into the season super happy if Albert Wilson's my first receiver off my bench.
Michael?
I'm okay with him being a wide receiver 4. He was a viable starter every week that he was healthy last season. He was explosive out of the slot.
And you could say that in Kansas City, it's just that role isn't isn't designed to be good. Like you see Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins didn't have great numbers even when he was playing last year. I think it's because the role.
Sammy Watkins is very consistent.
Very consistent?
When he's on the field.
I mean, yeah, but
for the Chiefs last year, I'd be happy to have him as my wide receiver 3.
I don't know. I think that role doesn't really speak to that much fantasy production. Let's talk about another guy. Jason, a darling of your stat. If you don't know, true throw value, true target value, gives and assigns a value to every throw a quarterback makes, whether it's complete or incomplete, and every target a wide receiver gets, whether it's incomplete or complete. And it's one of the best tools to make you make start-sit decisions. Because all of a sudden, when you have a guy who, let's say someone struggles against a guy with Kenny Stills type, I don't know, je ne sais quoi. Kenny Stills probably gonna get a lot of targets. Is that good? Is that bad? Last year, Jason identified a game where he thought Kenny Stills can get more targets than usual, and he saw that when Kenny Stills gets targets, it's usually efficient and well. He started Kenny Stills that day, and he ended up going for a crazy number. So, Jason, Kenny Stills, do you think he still has that potential to be a in and out kind of guy every week that you can play him in?
With Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm, yes.
Okay.
I
think you're sleeping on Josh Rosen a bit, man.
So.
He had the worst offensive line, no weapons.
But we know what the gunslinger Fitzpatrick can do with the deep ball.
That's also
he was
true.
very good with Brandon Marshall. Last year, Deshaun Jackson was a valuable wide receiver because Fitzpatrick was throwing him the ball deep. Winston came in, D-Jax fell off the earth. So Fitz isn't afraid to throw it deep, and I think Kenny Stills is a good combo there. So as long as Fitzpatrick's starting, I think Stills will be in the flex conversation.
But, like, we know who Stills is at this point. Like, it's not like Stills is going to break out in a big way or something. He's going to continue to be...
If Rosen's quarterback, though, he's going to be a flex?
He could be.
I don't think so.
Either way, more often than not, you probably shouldn't have Kenny Stills in your starting lineup.
Sure.
Yeah.
Another guy, Devontae Parker. I think, look.
This happens every year.
Yeah. If you're really talented, because you could blame Adam Gase all you want, if you're really talented in your Devontae Parker, this is your last chance. So, I mean, this is a guy who could surprise people and be a major wide receiver at some point.
No. I disagree. It would have happened by now. You're the people.
No,
you're the one.
Nah, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what I'm saying is if you're blaming it on Gase, if that's your theory, no Gase should mean Parker with some production.
No, I'm blaming it on the fact that Devontae Parker has never done anything in his life.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you're drafting Devontae Parker, you might as well just go into the season with a bench spot. That's how I'm looking at it.
We've all seen people who can flash before a game starts and they get in the game and they're just trash.
Guys like Dorial Green Beckham and people like that, they're always this tall wide receiver. You're like, yeah, he's great, and then they just go on the field and they don't know how to play football.
Darren Waller.
You ever seen the movie Bend It Like Green Beckham?
That was rough.
And that's the end of this.
That was rough.
One last wide receiver I just want to shout out, Jakeem Grant. He's not really someone to own, but if you're in an all-purpose yards league, like Michael and I were last year, and Jason. Sorry, Jason was on that team. Sorry.
DWG4.
You know, me and Michael share a baseball team, so I automatically go to share with Michael. Yeah, there you go. I think he's a great play in that. Let's go to the running backs. All right. This is it. Because Jason, once Adam Gase got fired in Miami, Jason had a parade. He said, finally, Kenyan Drake has been freed. And then the early reports out of camp and early practices are that Kalen Ballage is actually the guy who's getting the carries. So this is something that no matter what we think, you're going to have to monitor up until the very last second to make a decision.
I want to preface what you said.
I'm the Kenyan Drake guy.
Once Brian Flores came in, I wasn't as happy. If you're bringing a New England offense, that's not good for us.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But look, we went over this in one of our recent heat waves with Kenyan. We brought up Kenyan Drake because he was 41st in carries last year with 120 and 14th in receptions for running backs with 53. Turn that into RB17 overall. I don't really like to look at end of season stats, but RB17 overall with those opportunities is not something to do easily, especially when you're in an Adam Gase offense. Now, as we know, Adam Gase is gone, so now it's Brian Flores. But Kalen Ballage, the first few days of training camp, apparently has been working with the starters. Is blowing my mind. No one's going to convince me that Kalen Ballage is better than Kenyan Drake because he's not.
Drake's going to be the pass catching back too. I think it's going to be very similar to last year. Drake is going to end somewhere in the running back 17 range, and it's going to look all good and dandy at the end of the year. But then when you look back, you're going to see how many times he was on your bench and didn't produce. And produced. So if you want someone in the 6th round who you can start, who's going to be up and down, but by the end of the year will have good numbers, it's going to be Kenyan Drake.
I like Kenyan Drake, but I think Kalen Ballage, I don't know. I'm going to stay away at first. I drafted Kenyan Drake in the Scott Fish Bowl, so not the best reports in terms of that. But I still believe in Kenyan Drake's receiving ability. And look, if it's a New England situation where Ballage is kind of the first and second down back, and then you have Kenyan Drake as a receiving back, a la James White, I'm trying to have the new version of James White on my team. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world if you're a Kenyan Drake owner.
I'd rather pay for Drake than take Ballage. I know.
Well, Ballage is going for like free at this moment, but it's new reports.
I know a lot of people are saying otherwise, but I'd still want Drake.
Let's move over to the tight end, Mike Gesicki. He's in his 2nd year, had a really down first year, but is one of those spark athletes that go off the rails. Also, 2nd years tends to be a breakout for tight ends. Not only that, now you have Brian Flores coming in. He is from New England. Now, wasn't on the offensive side of New England, but is from New England. Chad O'Shea from the offensive side of New England. They use Gronk better than anyone else. Gesicki, not as big as Gronk, but kind of like that athletic receiving tight end. Is there any? Do you feel like he has a chance to break out this year? I think that I'm not saying yes, but I think there's like a 30-35% chance that he becomes a fantasy viable every week tight end.
Yeah, Gesicki was one of my fireworks, my latest round firework in our fireworks episode. Listen to that if you haven't yet. Because this dude, he's a freak. He's like 100 percentile spark athlete. For people who don't know, he basically is 98th percentile or better in almost every metric. He's like 6'4". He's ginormous. He already kind of broke Twitter on his first day in camp, catching a touchdown over someone. So, I mean, if Brian Flores and Chad O'Shea bring over the New England style of getting their best players the ball, Gesicki could definitely have a nice season this year. If Gesicki doesn't practice well and they don't think he's going to be on the field, like last season, only 22 receptions, 200 yards, no touchdowns, then it could be pointless. But Gesicki is one of my favorite like late round dart throw targets because if he doesn't produce, you could always release him. If he does produce, getting a tight end in the last round of a draft to actually be like a tight end one for you is a steal and a half, especially how the tight end landscape is.
And not to flex or anything, but I'm going to dust your shoulder off because when Michael says the word dart throw, listen, because he was on fire with those random ass dudes who would have 2 touchdowns and 100 yards last year.
True. My dart throws of the week were
particularly last year. It was like every single week Michael named a mad random person and they went off. Jason, you on the same boat?
Yeah, I'm all about getting Gesicki late in a draft. Why not?
Jason was a Gesicki hater last year, but again, rookie tight ends.
Rookie tight ends. He's not a rookie anymore. I'd rather have Gesicki over all the rookie tight ends.
With that being said, PSA, don't fall in love with your fantasy players because they're going to break your heart. But be open to falling in love with new guys, if that makes sense.
I'm still in love.
I don't get it.
You can find us next week.
Injury away. One injury away, Tim. Come on now.
Damn, I almost made it. This is the 8th one. And I made it risk free. Anyway,
I'm impressed so far.
One injury away. I'm gonna start because we already talked about this, guys. Kalen Ballage or Kenyan Drake. If one of them goes down, the other one will be a really, really hot fantasy commodity. Really hot.
I'm going 3rd string running back. I'm going Myles Gaskin.
Okay.
5'9" running back, 7th round pick out of Washington. I don't believe in Kalen Ballage. I don't think he's a good running back, and I think that maybe without even an injury, we could see Gaskin play. And if one of them does go down, I think Gaskin will be better than Ballage.
I think they're all small.
Mine is Kenyan Drake. Because if Kenyan Drake gets hurt and people pay up for Kalen Ballage, they're going to be disappointed. If Kalen Ballage gets hurt and people pay up for Kenyan Drake, they're going to be excited.
The lesson of the day, stay away from Miami wide receivers. Another lesson is come over here and
what are you talking
join
about?
us.
That's not what we said.
I mean, we're all going with running backs injury away, so stay away from the wide receivers that aren't starting, at least.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Why are you going to invest in a 4th string receiver on the Dolphins?
Yes. Why are you going to invest with a 3rd string running back? It's a better
Myles
bet.
Gaskin is a good name.
Exactly. It's a better bet. You could find us at Broto Fantasy on
Yep.
Twitter. You could also find Michael at
Mike_PETROP.
Jason at.
Jason PETROP.
You can find me at TimPetrop on all social media outlets, but only if you're feeling real frisky. Patreon.com/BrotoFantasy for a bunch of extras and to support the show. YouTube.com/BrotoFantasy. Also, what else? Did I miss anything?
Broto Fantasy.
I've got Patreon. Oh, BrotoFantasy.com, of course, our one-stop shop for everything Broto Fantasy. We're coming at you tomorrow with the AFC North. Stay tuned.
Later.